everyone, it's Nicola Cairncross here and welcome back to my channel. So today I want to do a little bit more straight talking about money. I want to talk to you about inflation today, and I beg you to bear with me because it's not as boring a topic as it might sound, and it is absolutely the most important thing that you should be thinking about with regards to your money right now. In the last few days, I've put out a couple of videos about money, about how to manage your money better. And that is indeed the first step of becoming more financially secure, is to know where all your money's going and where it's coming from and what you can do to keep more of it. That's the most important bit. So go and have a look at those. It's How I Manage My Money, parts 1 and 2. But today I want to talk to you about what will happen to your money regardless of how well you're looking out for it. And I actually heard someone who I respect very much yesterday say, I'm not very motivated by money. And I hope that the things I'm going to reveal in this video will help that person get more motivated about making more money, because that is the only way out of the trap of inflation that we all find ourselves in right now. Inflation has been running at a very, very low level for many years. And we can take it that the inflation figures we're given are about half of what they really are. So when inflation's running at about 2% and we think, oh, well, it's probably nearer 4% really, it still seems like a very small amount, doesn't it? But I looked up today the inflation figures for 2023 in the UK, and they're running at 10%. Now, if you know that the inflation figures are roughly calculated by how much a basket of goods goes up, and apparently those basket of goods are changed regularly, i.e. manipulated to make the inflation rate seem lower, then you can pretty much guarantee that our rate of inflation is running at about 20% at the moment. Now that is absolutely horrifying. It's gone from 4% to 20%, and I can tell you why in a minute. But if you think to yourself that, say you're earning £10,000 a year, just say you've got a part-time job, and it's going down in value, it's being eroded in value by the inflation figures, then I've done some sums here so you don't have to. If you start out this year with £10,000 a year, then next year, by inflation, will have eroded the value of that money. Although it'll still look like £10,000 in your paycheck, it will actually only be buying you goods and services to the value of £8,000. Then the next year it'll be buying you goods and services to the value of £6,400. The next year it'll be buying you goods and services to the value of £5,120. The next year it'll be buying you goods and services to the value of £4,096. And by year 5, it will be buying you goods and services to the value of £3,276. That's 1/3 of what it was buying you when you started in year 1. Now, that's the most terrifying thing about high levels of inflation. Let's just talk quickly about what causes inflation, because what causes inflation is not greedy business owners putting their prices up. It's the government printing more money. When we talk about the government printing more money, we're talking about the government lending money into existence. That's how the government and the bank create more money in the system. And it's that creating more money in the system makes the money lose its value and its purchasing power. So the government make more money in the system by creating treasury bills, or gilts as they're called in the UK, and people buy those gilts. And that's one of the government's only 2 forms of income, is issuing gilts and taxing people. They don't actually earn anything per se, so they've got no way of increasing their income unless they're going to issue more debt, which other people buy, or they're going to tax people more. And when it comes to the banks, do you know that when you go to the bank for a loan or a mortgage, that's when that money's created? The bank doesn't go down the back and open a big door and get some money out and take it and put it in your bank account and then give it to you. No, what happens is they just say, yes, that'll be fine, we think you're good for it. And they literally create that money out of thin air. So all money is based on debt. It's either the government debt or bank debt. Money started out as just a way of solving the Byzantine general's problem. The Byzantine general's problem is that when one general was over there and one general was over there, and one wanted to get a message to the other one, if he tried to do it through normal people, it was through Chinese whispers. They had to find a way of getting truth from one general to the next without it being changed. That was the original thing of how money started, because people had to find a way of finding a value of exchange so that we could trade between ourselves that was the same at one end when it left as it was when it arrived at the other end. So that if you bought something off of someone and you paid them, they knew that they were going to get the same amount of money that you'd agreed, and that nothing would have changed about that money. Now, for many, 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 many hundreds of years, gold and silver were actual money. They were actually coin of the realm. There was gold coins for rich people and silver coins for poor people, and sometimes they had copper coins as well. And to this day, gold and silver are still official tender. You can still actually use it as money. You could still go and buy a house with gold coin right now if you wanted to. The solicitor would complain a bit, but they'd have to accept it because it is legal tender. Now, I don't know if I'm going down too much of a rabbit hole with this, but what happened was that as governments wanted more and more money to spend, as their governments got bigger and bigger, there are only three things the government is supposed to do for us. One is to keep us safe, is to provide services that people can't do individually, i.e. keeping the physical infrastructure of the country going so that we have things like roads, railways, ports and bridges. And more recently, to provide a social welfare state that looks after the people that can't look after themselves. Now, the only way the government has to pay for this is through taxation or selling gilts. The problem is, though, that government keeps getting bigger and they keep wanting to spend more money on the things that they're not supposed to. For example, war. So every time the government wants more money, they have to borrow it from the bank or they have to issue more gilts. That's the only way they can get more money. And the problem is that the governments have gone and they have borrowed. Most people think that the governments own the banks. Well, they don't. The banks are private companies owned by shareholders. And the Bank of England and the Federal Reserve, the central banks as they're called, they're just owned by other shareholders who happen to be banks. So when the government wants more money, if it can't issue more gilts, it has to go to the banks and borrow more money. And what the banks do is they literally create that money, because it's just like if you and I go in for a car or a house, the government come to them and want to borrow a load of money. So the banks just print it into existence. They literally just say, yes, we'll give you that. By the very act of borrowing that money, the government has effectively created the money via the banks. The problem is, though, that the banks always charge interest, whether they're lending to you, whether they're lending to me, whether they're lending to the government. And the problem now is that the rate of inflation is getting higher and higher and higher, and the only thing the central banks can do about this is to raise interest rates, which also means that the government has to pay more interest. And it's getting to the point where the governments cannot afford to keep paying the interest, and the interest on the interest and the interest on the interest that's been going on for years and years and years. So the governments are going broke, the pensions are going broke, some of the banks are going broke. Look up Credit Suisse if you don't believe me. Because some of the banks have got a lot of bad debt as well as good debt. They've just changed the rules so that if any of the banks go broke nowadays, they're going to do what's called a bail-in. They'll go and take all the money out of the savings accounts and they'll use that to stop themselves going bankrupt. Don't believe me? The Bank of England just issued a playbook to all the other banks telling them how to do this last year. Anyway, I'm not here to alarm you, but I am here to try and get you motivated into taking some notice about what's going on with your money. If you really want to do a deep dive into what money really is, I would strongly recommend you go and watch Mike Maloney's Hidden Secrets of Money. They're short cartoon-led films and they're really, really informative, and they start right from the very beginning and they walk you through how money was created, how it started to be used, how the money we use nowadays won, if you like, and also what's happening with all the banks and the governments. Hidden Secrets of Money episode 4 is the one that talks about inflation. So let's just come back to that for a moment. So if your money is eroding in value 20% per annum and you have to keep buying the same goods and services with it, and my sums earlier did not take into account the fact that goods and services are going up, because people are realizing that they have to charge more to be able to buy the things that they need to make the stuff that they're going to sell. Everything that manufacturers and bakers and restaurants and all those kind of people, anyone who has to buy in stuff to make the things they make, they're all paying 20% more per annum as well every year. So what can you do? Well, the main thing you can do is get some fast money going and get some slow money going. And I've heard this phrase from a very good chap on YouTube called James Sinclair. He talks about fast money and slow money, and I like it a lot. So the only way you can get some really fast money going is to make more money on top of your job, because I've just showed you that your job, the money from your job, while it's going to look the same, is going to be buying 20% less in terms of goods and services every year. But you can start an extra business on the side to try and make up that 20% shortfall. It doesn't have to be a mega corporation, it just has to be something that makes you 20% on top of what you're earning. And then at least you'll be standing still. Well, you would be if goods and services weren't going up in price. I mean, I can give you countless examples of how food costs have rocketed. I mean, some food costs have gone up by 50 or 100% even. I'm certainly getting half as much fish as I used to for the money. They use the same size packets, they just put smaller bits of fish in and they put a big fat paper band around it to cover up the fact there's half as much fish in the packet. Absolute daylight robbery. But you can't blame them because they're having to pay 20% as much for everything that they have to do to catch the fish and transport the fish to the shops. So nobody's being greedy here, we're all just trying to get by. So if you can get some fast money going by having a business on the side of your job, or even better, perhaps 2 part-time businesses going on by the side of your job, if there's 2 of you in the house, then you're going to make fast money and you're going to be able to see from the spreadsheet that I taught you how to use the other day, how you need to pay yourself first. Most people, what they do is they earn and then they spend up to those earnings, their expenses going up all the time. But if you can get some fast money coming in on top of your job earnings, then you can see that you could start to pay yourself first. And then if you then cut your cloth of your expenses according to what's left after you've paid yourself first, then you'll be much better off. And what do I mean when I say paying yourself first? I mean investing in slow money, which is investing in things that might not pay you much back now, but hold their value over the time. And we know that they've got to hold more than 20% per annum at the moment, or that will give you a compounded return year over year. They're going to be going up in value, ideally more than 20% per annum, or whatever the prevailing real rate of inflation is. And there are plenty of things out there that are still doing that. We're just about to go into what's called a commodity super cycle. I can imagine that most commodities in this next 10 to 20 year super cycle would be going up more than 20% per annum. Some will be going up a lot more than that. So if you can make some fast money to make up the shortfall of what you need on a day-to-day basis, and then siphon off some of that fast money into your investments, which will also be going up if you choose them right by more than 20%, you can see that you're winning twice over. You're now not just running to keep still, you're actually getting ahead. There's a fantastic Mike Maloney video called Wealth Cycles that you should watch immediately after you've watched his Hidden Secrets of Money series that will tell you all about the difference between price and value. Because sometimes when you look at a commodity's price, you don't see the value. And I can't explain that any better right now. So go and watch Mike Maloney's video. I had to watch it 3 or 4 times to get what he was saying, but I finally got it through my head that price doesn't always equal value. And I think actually I've just demonstrated that by saying if you're earning £10,000 a year, in 5 years' time, you'll still be earning £10,000 in price, but you won't be getting the same value for it because it would have been depreciating at 20% per annum. Yeah, that's a pretty good example. The other thing you need to be doing is keeping some of your money out of the banks. As I said, the banks have been given permission to bail in, which means that if they go bankrupt, they can take the money out of the depositors' accounts, because as soon as you deposit your money in the bank, it's no longer yours. And if you don't believe me, look it up in your terms and conditions. And in fact, it was done in Cyprus in the World Economic Crisis, so do look that up as well. But bank bail-ins in Cyprus. Many people woke up one morning and found that their savings accounts had been raided by their banks. So how can you keep your money out of the bank system if you want to keep some of it safe? Well, again, we'll come back to gold and silver. And I'd like to add Bitcoin in there too. Not crypto, Bitcoin. Bitcoin is becoming regarded as another commodity. It's becoming regarded as something that can keep a value outside the banking system. Now, the good news about gold and silver, as I say earlier, it can be bought as coins and it can be used as money. So it's got a dual purpose because it will hold its value. Not a lot of people realise that gold against the pound this year has actually gone up in value by 10%. So if you'd been invested in gold at the beginning of the year and everything else was going down in value by 20%, at least your gold would have held its value and at least gone some way towards making up the difference. The good news about buying gold and silver coin in the UK at least, it doesn't count for capital gains tax. So even if it does go up in value, you don't have to pay tax on it because it's legal tender. I don't imagine that will last for long, but at the moment that's the situation. So it's a nice simple investment. You just buy it. Unfortunately with silver you have to pay VAT, but at least you get it delivered to your house and then you can keep it somewhere safe. We won't get into that conversation right now, but there's plenty of places where you can keep it safe and keep it out of the banking system. Now, if you've got any questions about any of this, I really would be delighted if you'd ask them in the comments below, because I can either then do a follow-up video on something and do a bit more of a deeper dive, or I can answer them in the comments. Let me just close this by saying that Mike Maloney has done a fantastic series on money. It's The Hidden Secrets of Money, volumes 1 to 10, and it's little fun cartoons. Well, content's not fun, but they're quite fun to watch. And he really does explain it all very, very well. And then his Wealth Cycles video is also really worth a watch. And I hope that it will get you more motivated about your money, because it's not just about earning it, it's about looking after it and preserving the value of it so that you can carry on at least living your existing lifestyle, never mind the one that you'd like to become accustomed to. The other resource I'd like to recommend to you is my book, The Money Gym. And I've also got a limited edition podcast, which you can get on Anchor, which you can get by going to themoneygym.com and clicking the link podcast, and you'll find that you can listen to the whole series of entrepreneurs and successful business people giving you their number one money tip. There's also a book on Amazon if you'd like that. Who better to learn from than people who've already been more successful? So that's pretty much it for today. I hope you found this interesting and it's opened your eyes to some of what's going on in the world. And the trick is not to get depressed about it, but to actually go and do something about it. The more education you have, the more empowered you'll be. See you tomorrow.